Hey, good morning, Matt. So still, it's too close to call, as you say. This is something, of course, that generally does tend to happen at the back of Israeli elections. We know the exit polls tend to be quite wildly off base, at least those very, very early on in the evening. Last night, voting here ended at 10 p.m., and those early exit polls seem to show Mr. Netanyahu as well as his opponent, Benny Gantz, very much neck and neck. But that seems to have changed over the course of the evening. We watched that until about 2 in the morning before I had to get a little sleep before joining you guys on Capital Connection. But let me run you through some of the numbers. It does seem as if the prime minister did pick up between 65 and 67 seats in the Knesset. And this, of course, has to do specifically with his ability to form a coalition. He needs 61 seats to do that. This wasn't just his party. This was other parties closely aligned with him on the right-wing side, helping him out there and really getting him above that 61-seat threshold. Of course, this is going to be really, really interesting going forward in terms of what that coalition could potentially look like. The Knesset has about 120 seats. And it was interesting that when you break it down here, the Likud party, the party of the prime minister, did get about 35 seats, and so did the Blue and White Party, his main opposition in this race. They also picked up about 35 seats. Now, 97% of the vote has been counted thus far. We're going to have to continue to watch this throughout today to see what happens next. But I got to tell you, very quickly off the back of the first exit polls after the closing of voting, both of these main front runners, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his opponent Benny Gantz, both claiming victory. Let's listen in to what they had to say.
It is a night of colossal victory, colossal. I am very moved that the people of Israel put their trust in me again, for the 5th time, a greater trust even. In elections there are losers, in elections there are winners, and we are the winners. The largest party is the one that needs to be mandated by the president and form the government.
And so when in doubt in modern politics, particularly it seems, Matt, within this age of populism, one just claims victory and waits for the results for later. But one thing I have to say, it was very, very interesting to watch over the last several hours toward the end of that voting, the opinions coming out of Israeli voters that we were speaking to seeming to shift. So many people that we spoke to who are Likud party members, for example, telling us that at the same time that they are extremely fatigued by all of these years of Mr. Netanyahu, at the same time they're going to continue to vote the party line. And you have to remember, of course, that going into this race, the prime minister had the backing in a very major way from the White House, from the Trump administration, from President Trump himself, as also, of course, from Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. A lot of very, very significant foreign policy shifts happening in the year or so leading up to this, including the move of the U.S. administration, the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem, those within the U.S. administration claiming Jerusalem to be the capital, in fact, of the state of Israel. Then, of course, we saw this mover to take the Golan Heights. Now we've seen Prime Minister Netanyahu in sort of a last-ditch move to rally support for his cause, essentially saying that they're going to annex more area in the West Bank. And so I want to let you listen in on something that we heard actually happening while the voting was taking place, but this on Capitol Hill, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo essentially refusing to answer what is current U.S. policy with regards to the West Bank. Listen in.
Sounds like you've already abandoned what has been a bipartisan foreign policy of opposing the annexation of any or part of the West Bank by Israel. Is that what you're telling us today?
I think we've seen, I think it was Senator Durbin that critiqued our decision on the Golan, where he would characterize that.
I'm not asking you about the Golan.
Yeah.
Right now.
Right.
I'm asking you about the West Bank.
And I'm telling you, you will see our proposal.
The polls are closing right now in Israel, and things could move very quickly. And as you know, the Prime Minister, as a candidate, said he would annex all or part of the West Bank. He said settlements, and then he said including outposts. And today you cannot tell us what U.S. policy is on this issue.
Yeah, again, I think I've answered the question as I'm going to answer the question.
You heard there Chris Van Hollen, Senator, essentially saying, what is U.S. foreign policy with regards to the West Bank? Are you upending or planning to upend decades of the status quo? And the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, refusing really to answer him there, Matt. I thought that was quite interesting. And, at the same time that this is all happening in the United States, people going to the polls here, in the Arab countries, as you know, the folks that we were speaking to over the weekend at the World Economic Forum, again and again, re-emphasizing that the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is pretty much the basis of all conflict for the region. They went back to that again and again and again in both my panels and my interviews. It's something that they continue to see as a major blow, frankly, to any potential Arab-Israeli rapprochement. And I think what's going to be really interesting going forward is if this does, in fact, as the senator was warning, move very, very quickly, will we continue to have any kind of current status quo with regards to what happens in this country? And frankly, are we ever going to see this much vaunted and much publicized yet lacking in detail peace plan from Jared Kushner?
Hey everybody, it's Hadley Gamble from our new CNBC Middle East Bureau in Abu Dhabi. Thanks for stopping by. Now to watch more, you can try one of the videos that just popped up on your screen. And don't forget to subscribe.